red digital numbers on the bedside clock read 3 in the morning. Outside, the wind is already awake, a low and constant baritone humming against the aluminum siding of the housing block. I lie there for a moment, simply breathing, listening to the gale pressing against the window pane. It is a familiar sound here in Dutch Harbor, a reminder that the world outside is vast, indifferent, and beautifully wild. But inside, under the heavy down comforter, the air is still and warm. I do not need the alarm. My internal clock is calibrated to the tides and the season. I reach out, my hand finding the small plastic button to silence the alarm before it can chirp, preserving the silence of the room. I sit up. The movement is slow, deliberate. There is no rush, only the steady rhythm of a routine practiced 1,000 times. My feet find the floor. The carpet is thin, industrial loop, cool against my skin, but not freezing. I stand and stretch, feeling the vertebrae in my back align. A series of small, satisfying pops that signal the body is coming online. The room is dark, lit only by the amber glow of a street lamp filtering through the heavy curtains. I navigate by memory to the small kitchenette. The ritual of coffee comes first. It is the anchor of the morning. I take the bag of beans from the freezer, the foil crinkling softly in the quiet room. They are dark roast, oily and rich. I pour a precise measure into the grinder. I place a hand over the plastic lid, dampening the sound as the blade whirs, pulverizing the beans into a coarse, fragrant sand. The aroma hits me instantly, earthy, bitter, and awakening. I pour the water into the reservoir. I listen to the gurgle as it flows down into the heating element. While the machine begins its hissing work, I turn to the business of dressing. In this line of work, clothing is not just fashion. It is engineering. It is the barrier between the body and the elements. I start with the base layer. I pull on a set of heavy merino wool thermals. The fabric is soft, not itchy. A dense weave designed to trap heat against the skin while wicking away moisture. I pull the long sleeves down over my wrists, smoothing out any wrinkles. Next comes the heavy fleece pants, thick and gray, with a drawstring that I tie in a secure bow. I pull on my socks. These are crucial. They are thick, knitted wool, gray with a red stripe at the toe. I pull them up over my calves, feeling the snug elasticity hugging my shins. Over the fleece pants, I pull on a pair of canvas work trousers, double knee reinforced, worn soft by years of salt and wash cycles. They slide on easily. I fasten the brass button and zip the fly. The sound of the zipper is loud in the hush of the apartment. The coffee maker creates a rhythmic gurgling sound, the final drops falling into the glass carafe. I pour a mug. The ceramic is heavy, white with a chipped rim. The steam rises in a twisting column, gray against the darkness. I take a sip. It is hot, scalding almost, and perfect. I stand by the window, parting the curtain just an inch. Outside, the streetlights create cones of visibility in the driving snow. The flakes are small and hard, driven sideways by the wind. It is a harsh view, but from the warmth of the room, holding the hot mug, it feels peaceful. I am safe. I am prepared. I finish the coffee and rinse the mug, setting it upside down on the drying rack with a soft clink. It is time to go. I move to the entryway where my outer gear waits. I pull on a heavy woolen sweater, the kind with the natural oils still in the fiber, smelling faintly of lanolin. It is dense and heavy on my shoulders. I sit on the small wooden bench to put on my boots. These are not the deck boots, those are on the boat, but sturdy leather hiking boots for the transit. I lace them tight, feeling the pressure secure my ankles. I grab my beanie, pulling it down over my ears, and then my gloves. Finally, the heavy parka. I zip it up to my chin. I pat my pockets, keys, wallet, ID badge. Check. I open the door. The wind tries to push me back, but I lean into it. I pull the door shut, listening for the solid click of the lock. The walk to the truck is short. The air is biting, carrying the unmistakable scent of the ocean's salt, seaweed, and the clean, metallic smell of snow. My boots crunch on the gravel and ice of the parking lot. The sound is crisp. Under the hood of the parka, the wind is muffled, a rushing white noise that wraps around me. My truck is an old diesel pickup, a reliable beast that has spent its life in the salt air. It is coated in a thin layer of frost. I scrape the windshield with a plastic scraper, the tool biting into the ice with a rhythmic rasping sound. Scrape, lift, scrape, lift. I clear a wide viewing port. I climb into the cab. The vinyl seat is stiff with cold. I insert the key and turn it halfway. The glow plug light illuminates on the dashboard, a small orange coil. I wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds. The light goes out. I turn the key fully. The engine turns over, a heavy, chugging protest, before catching with a roar that settles into a deep, rattling idle. I turn the heater fan to low and switch on the headlights. 2 beams of yellow light cut through the swirling snow, illuminating the flakes like sparks from a grinder. I let the truck warm up, listening to the change in the engine's pitch as the oil circulates and thins. The vibration travels up through the seat, a comforting tremor. I shift into gear and pull out onto the main road. The drive to the harbor is solitary. Dutch Harbor is a town of industry, and at this hour, it is shifting shifts. I pass a processing plant on the left. Steam billows from the roof vents, massive white clouds that merge with the snowy sky. I can see forklifts moving in the loading bays, their yellow safety strobes pulsing against the concrete walls. The tires hum on the wet asphalt. The heater begins to blow tepid, then warm air. I direct the vents toward my hands on the steering wheel. I crest the hill and look down at the harbor. It is a city unto itself, floating on the black water. The sodium lights of the fleet reflect on the surface, creating long, shimmering pillars of orange and gold. There are trawlers, crabbers, and longliners, all jostling gently against the docks. It is a chaotic forest of masts, cranes, and radar arrays. But to my eye, it is ordered and sensible. I navigate the truck through the security gate, waving to the guard in the booth. He nods, a slow dip of his chin. We know each other, though we rarely speak. I park in my designated spot near the end of the spit. I turn off the ignition. The engine shudders and dies, leaving a sudden, ringing silence in the cab. I sit for a moment, letting the transition happen. I am leaving the land behind. I step out, the cold rushing back in to greet me. I grab my duffel bag from the passenger seat. It is made of heavy waterproof tarpaulin, bright yellow, stained with grease and ink. I sling it over my shoulder. The walk down the pier is treacherous if you aren't paying attention. The wood planks are slick with ice and slime. I walk with a shortened stride, keeping my center of gravity low. The water laps against the pilings below, a wet, slapping sound. And there she is, the Aleutian Star, 110 feet of steel, painted a deep royal blue with a white wheelhouse. She looks massive from the dock, the bow flaring out high above my head. She is sitting heavy in the water, fueled and provisioned. I walk to the gangway. It is a metal ramp with cross-hatching for grip. I step onto it, my boots clanging on the aluminum. I bridge the gap between the solid earth and the floating world. As soon as my weight transfers to the deck, I feel it, the subtle, rhythmic sway. The boat is alive, breathing with the ocean. The deck is quiet. The crab pots are stacked high, 7 high, secured with heavy chains and lines. They form walls of steel mesh and rubber. I navigate the narrow corridor between the stack and the rail, my gloved hand trailing along the cold steel of the gunwale. I reach the heavy steel door of the galley. It has a single lever handle. I rotate it upward, clunk, and pull. The seal breaks with a hiss of air pressure. Inside, the galley is warm. It smells of floor wax and lingering bacon grease. A single light is on over the coffee urn. The low hum of the refrigerator is the only sound. It is clean, immaculate even. We keep a tidy ship. A messy boat is a dangerous boat. I drop my duffel bag on the bench seat of the mess table. I unzip my parka and hang it on the hook by the door. I sat down on the bench to change my footwear. I unlace my hiking boots, placing them in the cubby beneath the seat. I pull on my deck boots, the Extratovs. They are brown rubber with a beige trim. I fold the tops down, revealing the neoprene lining. They are comfortable, familiar, an extension of my own feet. I walk through the galley and up the short flight of stairs to the wheelhouse. The stairs are steep, covered in non-slip tread. I grip the railings with both hands. The wheelhouse is the brain of the vessel. It is dark, illuminated only by the standby lights of the instrument panel. I step inside and close the door behind me, sealing out the wind noise. Here, it is almost silent, just the faint ticking of the clock and the wind whistling around the antennas outside. I walk to the captain's chair, but do not sit. I stand before the console. I flip a switch, and the overhead red tactical light comes on. It bathes the room in a crimson glow, preserving my night vision. It is time to wake the machine. I leave the wheelhouse and head down the internal ladder, descending past the crew quarters, where the others are likely still sleeping or just stirring. I go deeper, down into the belly of the ship. The engine room door is heavy, soundproofed steel. I open it, and the smell hits me. A thick, heady perfume of diesel, lube oil, and warm metal. It is a good smell. It smells of power. I step onto the diamond plate grating of the walkway. The main engines, two massive 12-cylinder diesels, sit silent and cold. They are painted caterpillar yellow, clean and imposing. I put on my ear defenders, resting them around my neck for now. I begin my pre-start walk around. This is a religious rite. I cannot skip a step. I move to the starboard, engine first. I pull the dipstick. It is long, a flexible metal ribbon. I wipe it clean with a rag from my back pocket, reinsert it, and pull it again. The oil is black and thick, sitting exactly at the full mark. I nod. I check the coolant levels in the expansion tank. The sight glass shows green fluid, right where it should be. I run my hand along the high-pressure fuel lines, checking for any dampness or leaks. Dry. I check the raw water sea chest valves. They are open, the handles aligned with the pipes. I check the transmission fluid. I check the bilge for any standing water. It is dry. I repeat the entire process on the port engine. Oil, coolant, fuel lines, valves, transmission. Everything is in order. I move to the electrical distribution panel on the bulkhead. It is a wall of gauges and breakers. I check the battery voltage. 24 volts. Good. I engage the main battery, disconnects. Click-clack. The ship's vanes are now open for high amperage. I step over to the starboard engine control box. I turn the key to the run position. The alarm buzzer sounds, a shrill, piercing warning that low oil pressure is present because the engine is not turning. This is normal. I press the black rubber start button. Compressed air rushes into the starter motor with a high-pitched shriek. The massive engine turns over. Chug, 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 and then ignition. Boom. The engine catches. The sound is immediate and physical. A deep, resonant thrumming that vibrates through the soles of my boots and settles in my chest. The low oil pressure alarm cuts out instantly as the pressure builds. The engine settles into a steady, rhythmic idle. Dugga 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 dugga. I watch the gauges. Oil pressure rising to 60 pounds. Water temperature climbing slowly. Alternator charging. I put my ear defenders on now. The noise is deafening, a symphony of mechanical force. I walk to the port engine. Key to run. Alarm sounds. Start button pressed. Air hiss. Chug chug chug. Boom. Now both giants are awake. The air in the engine room begins to warm up immediately. The vibration is synchronized, a harmonic resonance that makes the tools on the workbench rattle softly. I check the generator next. It is smaller, a 4-cylinder auxiliary engine. I start it up. It purrs at a higher frequency, providing the electrical power for the lights, the galleys, and the hydraulics. I walk between the engines one last time, listening. I am listening for anything irregular, a tap, a knock, a hiss. But there is only the smooth, powerful song of well-maintained machinery. I place my hand on the valve cover of the starboard engine, feeling the heat beginning to permeate the iron. Satisfied, I climb the ladder out of the engine room, dogging the heavy door shut behind me. The silence of the corridor is sudden and stark after the roar of the diesels. I return to the wheelhouse. The instrument panel is now alive. Screens are flickering to life. The radar sweeps a green line around the circular display. The GPS plotter glows with our position. I walk to the main electrical panel behind the helm. I flip the breakers for the deck lights. Outside the windows, the world transforms. Massive sodium vapor floodlights ignite on the mast. They flicker for a second, then blaze into brilliant, artificial daylight. The orange light floods the deck, illuminating the frost on the crab pots, the wet steel of the launcher, and the coils of line. The snow is falling harder now, visible as thick streaks in the powerful lights. I look out over the bow. The water in front of the boat is illuminated, black and churning. The reflection of our lights dances on the waves. I check the hydraulic pumps. I flip the switch on the dash. I can hear the subtle whine of the pumps engaging, pressurizing the system that will haul the heavy pots from the deep. The pressure gauge needle jumps and holds steady at 3,000 pounds. I grab the microphone of the PA system. I press the button. Coffee is on. Engines are warm. Let's look alive. My voice booms over the deck speakers, muffled slightly by the wind. I sit in the captain's chair. The leather is cool. I rest my feet on the brass rail beneath the console. I scan the gauges one more time. Everything is green. Everything is ready. I look out at the fleet. Other boats are waking up too. I see lights flickering on aboard the Pacific Raider. 2 slips down. I see a plume of diesel smoke rising from the northern wind. The harbor is stirring. There is a unique feeling in these moments before departure. It is a mix of calm and focus. The land life, the bills, the news, the traffic fades away. The universe shrinks down to this boat, this crew, and the job ahead. I hear heavy footsteps on the stairs. The door opens. It is the deck boss, a man named Eric. He is holding a steaming mug of coffee, wearing his orange bibs with the suspenders hanging down. "Morning, Skip," he says, his voice gravelly with sleep. "Morning, Eric," I reply. "How's the deck?" "Icy," he says, taking a sip. "But we'll salt it. Gear looks good." "Good." We cast off in 15. "Copy that." He turns and leaves, closing the door. I look at the tide chart on the screen. The tide is high and beginning to turn. The current will be with us leaving the breakwater. I reach for the throttle levers. They are smooth stainless steel, cool to the touch. I don't move them yet, just resting my hand on the knobs, feeling the vibration of the engines waiting to work. The prep is done. The commute is over. The machine is awake. I take a deep breath, inhaling the smell of the wheelhouse, old coffee, ozone, and the faint, briny scent of the sea seeping in through the vents. I am ready. I step out of the galley and into the drying room, a transitional space that smells of warm rubber and heated ventilation. This is the airlock between the comfort of coffee and the reality of the Bering Sea. My gear hangs on its designated hook, swaying slightly with the gentle roll of the vessel. I reach for my bibs. They are heavy-duty PVC, bright orange and stiff, with the salt of 1,000 splashes. I step into the boots first, my feet sliding into the thick insulation of the X-Stratovs. I pull the heavy material up, settling the suspenders over my shoulders. I adjust the plastic slides until the fit is snug, but allows for a full range of motion. There is a specific comfort in being armored against the elements. I pull on a hooded sweatshirt, then my float coat. Finally, I wrap my wrists. This is a ritual. I take a roll of black electrical tape and wind it around the cuffs of my sleeves where they meet the gloves. I do this slowly, ensuring the seal is watertight. I tear the tape with a sharp tug, smoothing the end down. I am sealed. I am ready. I push open the heavy steel door to the back deck. The sound of the ocean rushes in, a constant, white noise, hiss of wind and water, underscored by the deep, rhythmic thumping of the diesel engine beneath my feet. The air is crisp and cold, biting at my exposed cheeks, but the work will warm me soon enough. The deck is awash in the amber glow of the sodium vapor lights. They turn the wet steel plating into a mirror, reflecting the steam rising from the hydraulic lines and the white crests of the waves alongside the hull. I walk to my station at the rail. I do not rush. On a crab boat, rushing leads to mistakes, and mistakes break the rhythm. I move with a planted stance, knees slightly bent, absorbing the movement of the floor as if my legs are extensions of the hull. My partner, a man named Eric, who has worked this deck for 20 years, nods to me from the bait station. We do not need to speak. We know the choreography. The captain is in the wheelhouse, watching the plotter, steering us toward the first string of pots. I hear the hydraulic system engage, a rising whine that signals the power is flowing to the block and the launcher. It is a sound of potential energy waiting to be released. I pull on my gloves, the textured orange rubber gripping the air as I flex my fingers. The boat slows. The engine pitch drops. We are approaching the first buoy. I lean over the rail, holding the grappling hook. It is a simple tool, a heavy piece of steel on a sturdy pole, but it requires precision. Out in the dark water, a splash of color appears. The buoy. It bobs in the swell, trailing a length of floating line. I wait for the roll. The boat dips, bringing the rail closer to the water. In that second of proximity, I extend the hook. I feel the steel catch the rope. I pull back, a smooth rowing motion, bringing the dripping line into my hands. I feed the line into the hydraulic block. This is the heart of the hauling operation. The block is a large, suspended pulley system that hangs above the rail. I seat the rope between the sheaves. The captain engages the hauler. The sheaves turn, gripping the wet rope and pulling it up from the depths. This is where the rhythm begins. The line comes up under tension. It vibrates, shedding water that sprays outward in a fine, salty mist. I stand at the coiler, watching the rope pile neatly onto the deck. It forms a perfect circle, loop over loop, guided by a mechanical arm that swings back and forth with hypnotic regularity. Swish, click, swish, click. The sound of the rope hitting the pile is soft and wet. I watch the line for signs of wear, my eyes tracing the weave as it flies through the block. 60 fathoms of line, 360 feet. It takes time to bring a pot up from the bottom. I use this time to prepare the bait. I turn to the bait table. We are using frozen herring and hanging bait, usually cod or salmon heads. The herring is partially thawed, firm but yielding. I take my knife, a short blade with a bright yellow handle, and slice the herring into chunks. The knife is razor sharp. It slides through the fish with a quiet snick, hitting the cutting board with a dull thud. I fill the bait jar, a perforated plastic cylinder. I snap the lid shut. The sound is a crisp click. I take a large cod head and pierce it with a metal hanging hook, feeling the steel slide through the bone and cartilage. The hydraulic whine changes pitch. The pot is at the surface. I step back to the rail. The water alongside the boat churns as the 700-pound steel cage breaks the surface. It streams water, a cascading waterfall pouring from the mesh and steel bars. The crane swings over. I grab the bridle, the thick rope harness attached to the pot, and guide it into the launcher. With a heavy clang, the pot settles onto the hydraulic launching rack. The metal-on-metal sound is solid, reassuring. The captain hits a lever, and the rack tilts inward, presenting the pot to us. The door of the pot is held shut by a bungee and a hook. I release it. The door swings open. Inside, the catch is a tangled mass of spiny legs and shells. Apilio crab, snow crab. They are a dusty orange color, clicking and rustling against one another. We begin the sort. This is the most tactile part of the job. I reach into the mass. The gloves protect me from the spines, but I can still feel the weight and the strength of the creatures. I grab a crab by the carapace, lifting it. I flip it over. First check gender. The females have a wide, beehive-shaped flap on their abdomen. We only keep males. I see the wide flap. Female. I toss her gently over the rail, back into the sea. She hits the water with a small splash and is gone. I grab another. Narrow flap. Male. Now the size. I pick up the measuring gauge. It is a simple notch cut into a piece of plastic or brass. I slide the gauge over the carapace. If the shell hits the sides of the notch before it passes through, it is a keeper. If it slides through easily, it is too small. Click. The shell hits the sides. A keeper. I turn and drop the crab into the holding tank trough. A stream of circulating seawater carries him away to the hold below decks. Grab, flip, male, measure, keeper, drop, grab, flip, female, toss, grab, flip, male, measure, small, toss. The motion becomes automatic. My arms move in smooth arcs. There is no wasted energy. I do not throw the discards with force. I simply guide them back to the ocean. I do not drop the keepers with carelessness. I place them in the flow. The sound of shells clicking against the sorting table creates a percussion track to the hum of the engine. Eric is working the other side of the pot. We do not bump hands. We work in parallel, clearing the pot in under a minute. The mesh floor of the cage is revealed, clean and empty. Now the reset. I take the bait jar I prepared earlier. I reach into the center of the pot and unclasp the old jar, tossing the spent bait, just bones and skin now, over the side. I snap the new jar into place. I take the hanging hook with the cod head and suspend it from the center of the cage. The bait hangs in the middle, an invitation. I check the mesh. No tears, no loose bars. The gear is sound. Ready, I say. My voice is low, just loud enough to be heard over the wind. I close the door. I pull the bungee cord tight and secure the hook. The tension is satisfying. I verify the knot on the bridle. I step back to the safety zone. Eric steps back. The captain activates the launcher. The hydraulic table tilts up and out. The heavy steel pot slides down the ramp. Gravity takes over. It hits the water with a tremendous splash, a plume of white spray rising up in the darkness. The line, which I had coiled so neatly, begins to pay out. I watch the coil disappear. Loop after loop flies off the deck, chasing the pot down to the dark, muddy bottom of the Bering Sea. The buoy follows last, dragged off the rail and vanishing into the wake. One down. The boat is already turning, aligning for the next buoy. I can see it in the distance, a small reflector catching the beam of the searchlight. I walk back to the bait table. I pick up the knife. I slice the herring. Thud, slice, thud, slice. I fill the jar. Snap. The rhythm establishes itself. It is a loop of sensation and action that bypasses the conscious mind. There is no past. There is no future. There is only the cycle of the gear. Hook the buoy. Feed the block. Coil the line. Land the pot. Sort the catch. Bait the jar. Launch the pot. Time begins to compress. This is the flow state. The cold wind against my face ceases to be a discomfort and becomes just a texture of the environment, like the grit on my gloves or the vibration of the deck. My body temperature regulates perfectly inside the heavy gear. I am a machine working in tandem with the hydraulic pumps. We work through the string of 40 pots. The sky begins to shift from pitch black to a deep, bruised purple. Dawn is coming, but it arrives slowly in these latitudes. Between pots 15 and 16, there is a brief pause. The distance between these two is slightly longer. I take the moment to pick up the hose. I wash down the sorting table, spraying away the mud and the bits of bait. The water strikes the steel table and fans out, washing the debris through the scuppers and back into the ocean. The sound of the high-pressure water hitting the metal is a loud, cleansing hiss. I spray my gloves, watching the brown mud slide off the orange rubber, revealing the bright color beneath. I spray my boots. Everything is clean. Everything is orderly. The next buoy is alongside. I reach out with the hook. The motion is identical to the last 15 times. My muscles remember the exact amount of force needed. I do not have to think about the angle of the pole or the roll of the boat. My arm extends, the hook connects, and I pull. The repetition is soothing. It is a form of meditation. The worries of the land bills, emails, schedules do not exist here. Here, there is only the immediate reality of the work. The problem is right in front of you. A pot that needs to be emptied and reset. The solution is in your hands. You apply the solution, and the problem is solved. Then a new problem arrives, identical to the last. There is a profound satisfaction in this loop. It is the joy of competence. I know exactly what I am doing. I know exactly where my feet are placed. I know exactly how the line feels when it is under the proper tension. As we work, the sounds of the boat create a symphony of industry. The clack, clack, clack of the crab shells, the whir of the hydraulic block, the thrummum of the diesel engine, the splash of the pot hitting the water, the hiss of the sea. It is a white noise that blankets the mind, smoothing out the rough edges of thought. At pot number 20, the sun finally breaks the horizon. It is not a bright, blinding sun, but a soft, diluted light that turns the gray water to a metallic silver. The steam rising from the bait table glows, pink for a moment. I pause for 1 second while the block hauls the line, just to breathe it in. The air tastes of salt and iodine. It is the cleanest air on earth. I look at Eric. He is focused on the coil, his hands guiding the rope. He looks up and catches my eye. He gives a small nod. We are halfway through the string. The tank is filling up. The rhythm is good. We land a heavy pot. This one is absolutely full. The mesh is bulging with crab. When I open the door, they spill out in a cascade, a mound of living orange geometry. Heavy one, I say. Solid, Eric replies. We sort with increased tempo, but without haste. The clicking of the gauge becomes faster. Click, click, click. Keeper, keeper, keeper. The hold fills. The product is good. These crabs are clean, hard-shelled, full of meat. It is a successful harvest. There is a primal satisfaction in gathering resources, a deep-seated biological reward for bringing in the catch. I rebate. I hang the cod. I check the door. Clear, I call out. The pot slides into the water. I turn back to the table. My knife hand is tired, a dull ache in the forearm, but it is a good ache. It is the feeling of muscle being used for its intended purpose. I stretch my fingers inside the glove, feeling the resistance of the rubber. I pick up the sharpening steel. I run the blade of my knife along the steel rod. Shaching. 4 strokes. That is all it takes. The edge is honed. I go back to chopping the herring. The knife falls through the fish effortlessly. We approach the end of the string. Pot number 39. The routine is as crisp as it was at number 1. My movements have not degraded. If anything, they have become more efficient. I have trimmed away the microseconds of hesitation. I am fluid. We hull. We sort. We bait. We set. Pot 40. The last one of this line. We bring it aboard. It lands with that familiar, heavy clang. We empty it. We stack this one, securing it to the rail instead of launching it, signaling the end of the set. I wrap the line around the frame of the pot, creating a tidy bundle of rope. I tie the buoy off securely. The captain throttles down the hydraulics. The wine fades into silence, leaving only the sound of the engine and the water. The deck lights seem dimmer now that the daylight has fully arrived. I take the hose and do a final washdown of the station. I spray the block, cleaning the salt from the sheaves. I spray the launcher. I spray the floor, watching the water chase the last of the crab legs and bait scraps into the scuppers. The deck is gleaming steel again. I strip off my gloves. My hands are pale and wrinkled from the sweat inside the rubber, but they are warm. I unhook my suspenders, letting the weight of the bibs hang loose for a moment to vent the heat. I look out at the horizon. The sea is a vast, rolling plain of slate gray. We have finished the morning string. The tank is heavier. The work is done for now. I turn to Eric. Coffee. Coffee, he agrees. We walk back toward the heavy steel door of the galley. I step over the high threshold, leaving the noise of the wind behind. The door closes with a solid, airtight thud, sealing us back into the warmth. The smell of fresh coffee replaces the smell of brine. The vibration of the deck is still there, humming through the soles of my boots, a reminder that the boat is always moving, always working, even when we pause. But the morning flow is complete. The rhythm has been satisfied, and soon we will go back out and find it again. The hydraulic whine of the block finally tapers off, dropping in pitch until it vanishes into the low, steady thrum of the main diesel engine. Silence, or what passes for silence out here, reclaims the deck. It is not a true absence of sound, but a shifting of frequencies. The aggressive mechanical roar is replaced by the organic percussion of the ocean. The hull groans as it settles into a trough. The spray hisses against the aluminum bulwarks. I stand by the sorting table for a moment, letting my body register the stop. My gloved hands hang loose at my sides. The muscle memory of the morning, the hook, the pull, the slide. The stack still hums in my biceps and forearms. We have run the first string of 50 pots without a snag. The rhythm was good. The rhythm was perfect. But now the captain has throttled down. The boat slows to a lazy drift. It is time for the midday lull. I turn toward the stack of gear. One by one, the other deckhands do the same. There is no need for orders. We move with the synchronized fatigue of men who know the drill. I step over the coiling of the main line, careful not to disturb the perfect lay we achieved during the haul. The walk to the galley door is short, but it feels like crossing a threshold between worlds. I reach for the heavy steel latch. It is cold, slick, with salt water and mist. I rotate the handle, feeling the internal dogs disengage with a solid, metallic clunk. I pull. The door swings outward, heavy on its hinges, and instantly the sensory landscape shifts. The air inside is thick, warm, and smells aggressively of life. It smells of brewing coffee, dark and slightly burnt at the bottom of the pot. It smells of damp wool drying on hooks, but mostly it smells of slow-cooked beef and yeast. I step over the raised bulkhead, dragging my boots on the heavy rubber mat to clear the worst of the slime. The door seals behind me with a vacuum-like thud, cutting off the wind. The silence here is different. It is insulated. The engine is just a vibration in the floorboards, a comforting massage for the soles of my feet. I begin the process of shedding the outer layer. This is a ritual in itself. First, the heavy rubber gloves. I pull them off, finger by finger, hearing the suction break. I set them on the drying rack, lining them up perfectly with the others. Next are the liners, the blue knit fabric damp with sweat. I lay them over the heater vent. Then comes the jacket. The zipper is salt-crusted, offering a satisfying resistance as I pull the tab down. The sound is a rough, plastic tear. I shrug out of the heavy orange PVC, the material stiff and crinkling, and hang it on my assigned peg. My body feels instantly lighter, almost buoyant, without the weight of the gear. I am just in my hooded sweatshirt and jeans now, the suspenders of my bibs hanging loose at my waist. I walk to the small stainless steel sink in the corner. I pump the soap dispenser 3 times. The soap is gritty, industrial strength, smelling of citrus and pumice. I scrub my hands, working the grit into my knuckles, under my fingernails, feeling the friction scour away the bait oil and the brine. The water is hot, shockingly hot, and I let it run over my wrists for a long moment, watching the steam rise and fog the bottom of the small porthole above the sink. I dry my hands on a rough towel and turn to the table. The galley is small, efficient, and bolted down. The table has a raised lip around the edge, a fiddle rail, to keep plates from sliding into laps when the boat rolls. We slide onto the bench seats. The vinyl is worn smooth, warm from the ambient heat of the engine room below. The cook, a man who moves with the same economy of motion as the captain, places a large pot in the center of the table. It sits on a non-slip silicone mat. He lifts the lid. A cloud of steam billows up, carrying the rich, savory scent of beef stew. It is a thick, dark brown gravy, loaded with chunks of roast, carrots cut into large, rustic rounds, and potatoes that have softened enough to thicken the broth. He hands down a basket of bread. It is sourdough, baked fresh this morning while we were hauling. The crust is golden and dusted with flour. The inside is dense and steaming. I take the ladle. It is heavy stainless steel. I scoop a mound of stew into my bowl. The sound of the thick liquid hitting the ceramic is heavy and wet. I pass the ladle to the man on my left. We do not talk much yet. The first few minutes of the break are for eating. I tear a piece of bread. The crust crackles, a sharp, crisp sound in the quiet galley. I spread a thick pat of butter across the hot, white interior. The butter melts instantly, turning into a golden oil that soaks into the air pockets of the dough. I take a bite. The sour tang of the yeast, the salt of the butter, the crunch of the crust. It is simple, caloric, and perfect. I eat the stew slowly. I pay attention to the textures. The beef falls apart with no resistance. The carrots are sweet. The broth coats my tongue, warm and salty. Every calorie is necessary. Every bite is fuel replacing what the cold wind stripped away in the last 6 hours. I can feel the heat radiating outward from my stomach, relaxing the tight muscles in my lower back, loosening the tension in my shoulders. I reach for the coffee pot, secured in a specialized rack on the counter. I pour a mug. The liquid is black, opaque. I add a splash of cream, watching the white swirl into the darkness, creating a chaotic, marbleized pattern before blending into a uniform tan. I wrap both hands around the ceramic mug. The heat seeps into my palms, soothing the joints that have been gripping rope and steel all morning. We sit for 20 minutes. The conversation is low and technical. We discuss the crab count. We talk about the lay of the line on the coiler. We mention a specific hydraulic hose that looked a little worn near the crimp. There is no drama, only observation. We are diagnosing the machine that is our livelihood. Eventually, the plates are pushed away. The lull deepens. This is the part of the day where the frantic energy of the morning catch dissipates, replaced by a slower, deliberate pace. We are not hauling again for another 2 hours. The boat is jogging slowly toward the next set of grounds. I stand up and take my dishes to the sink. I wash them myself, the rule of the boat. Wash, rinse, rack. The clink of clean dishes settling into the drying rack is a domestic sound. strangely comforting in the middle of the Bering Sea. I decide not to return to my bunk. Instead, I want to see the world from a place of stillness. I step out of the galley and climb the steep, narrow stairs to the wheelhouse. The bridge is darkened, illuminated mostly by the glow of the instrument panels. The radar sweeps its green line in a hypnotic circle. The depth sounder scrolls a jagged profile of the ocean floor, fathoms beneath us. The captain is in his chair, feet propped up, a mug of tea in his hand. He nods to me, but says nothing. I nod back and move to the side window. I lean against the bulkhead, looking out. The glass is thick, reinforced to withstand waves that can shatter lesser materials. Outside, the afternoon light is changing. The harsh, flat gray of the morning is softening. The clouds are breaking up in the west, allowing shafts of pale, watery sunlight to pierce through and hit the water. Where the light hits, the ocean transforms. It is no longer just a black void. It is a deep, translucent indigo. I watch the swells. They are long and rolling today, not steep. The boat rides them easily. We lift, a slow, elevator-like ascent, hanging for a second at the crest, and then slide down the backside, the bow cutting a clean wake of white foam that sizzles and fades into the blue. I watch a fulmar, a seabird with stiff, straight wings, gliding alongside us. It does not flap. It uses the updraft created by the hull of the boat to stay aloft, locking its eyes on the water, waiting for scraps. It is a master of efficiency. It moves only when it must. I appreciate that. After a while, the stillness in my body demands movement, not the heavy lifting of the deck, but the precise, tactile work of maintenance. I leave the wheelhouse, descending the stairs back to the main deck level, but I head for the bosun's locker instead of the galley. The locker is a small workshop tucked under the forecastle. It smells of grease, solvent, and dry rope. It is organized with obsessive precision. Wrenches hang in graduated order. Fids and marline spikes are slotted into wooden racks. Spools of twine sit on dowels. I have a task in mind. We have a spare shot of line that needs an eye splice at the end. It is not urgent, which makes it the perfect task for the lull. It is meditation with purpose. I pull the coil of 3-strand nylon rope onto the workbench. The rope is new, stiff, and white. It has a glossy sheen. I measure out a generous tail, marking the spot with a piece of electrical tape. I pick up a roll of tape and wrap the ends of the 3 individual strands to keep them from fraying. Then I begin to unlay the rope. I twist against the natural lay, separating the strands. 1, 2, 3. They spring apart, curly and resilient. I unlay them back to my mark. I pick up a fid, a smooth, tapered tool made of polished hardwood. It feels cool and solid in my hand. I form the loop, the eye, sizing it to match the standard thimble we use. I hold the standing part of the rope in my left hand and the loose strands in my right. Now the weave begins. It is a pattern my hands know better than my mind does. Center strand first. I push the fid under a standing strand, lifting it just enough to create an opening. I slide the center tail through the gap. I pull it tight, but not too tight. It needs to settle. Left strand next. Over the strand I just went under, and under the next one. I twist the rope, opening the path, tucking the tail. Right strand. This is the tricky one. I flip the rope over to reach the back. I find the third standing strand, the one that hasn't been touched. I tuck the tail under it. I pull all 3 strands snug. They radiate out from the main rope at equal angles, looking like a flower. This is the first tuck. A good splice needs at least 4 full tucks to hold the tonnage we pull. I settle into the rhythm. Tuck, pull, twist. Tuck, pull, twist. The friction of the nylon creates a squeaking sound, like fresh snow under boots. The rope resists, wanting to stay straight, but I force it into the new shape. I use the fid to pry the strands open, levering the wood against the tight weave. There is a deep satisfaction in this geometry. I am creating a connection that is stronger than the rope itself. The friction between the strands will hold fast under thousands of pounds of tension. The harder the crab pot pulls, the tighter this splice will lock. I finish the 4th tuck. The splice is symmetrical, a tapered swelling in the line that looks machine-made. But I am not done. I want it smooth. I place the splice on the floor and roll it under my boot. I press down, rocking my foot back and forth. This compresses the fibers, settling the strands into their final resting place. The splice slims down, becoming sleek and uniform. I take a sharp knife from my belt. The blade is honed to a razor edge. I slice off the excess tails of the strands. I cut them on a bevel, tapering them so they melt into the profile of the rope. I take a lighter from the shelf and quickly singe the ends, melting the nylon just enough to prevent fraying. I press the hot, molten plastic flat with the side of the lighter. Done. I hang the finished line on the spare hook. It is ready for the sea. I check my watch. We still have 40 minutes. I look around the small workshop for the next small victory. My eyes land on the grease gun. The block, the massive pulley hanging from the crane that hauls the pots, needs to be greased daily. It is the heart of the operation. If the block seizes, we are done. I grab the grease gun and a rag. I step out of the locker and back onto the deck. The air is still crisp, but the wind has died down. The boat is barely rolling now. I walk to the crane. The block hangs at chest level. It is a heavy assembly of stainless steel and hydraulic motors. I wipe the zerk fitting, the small nipple where the grease enters with the rag, cleaning off a speck of old grit. I don't want to force dirt into the bearing. I snap the nozzle of the grease gun onto the fitting. It clicks into place. I pump the handle. The lever action is smooth. I can feel the pressure building in the cylinder. 1 pump, 2 pumps, 3. I watch the seam of the bearing, housing closely. On the 5th pump, I see it. A thin, clean bead of blue marine grease oozes out from the seal, displacing the old, dark grease. That is the visual confirmation. The bearing is full. It is protected. It is ready to spin under load. I wipe away the excess with a single swipe of the rag, leaving the metal gleaming. I move to the sorting table. The knives we use for chopping bait are sitting in their rack. They are sharp, but they can always be sharper. I take the diamond stone from the shelf. I pour a little water on it. I pick up the first knife. It has a yellow handle and a 6-inch blade. I place the edge against the stone at a 20-degree angle. I draw the blade across the stone in a sweeping motion, leading with the heel and ending at the tip. SHHH whip. SHHH whip. The sound is rhythmic, abrasive, and consistent. I count 10 strokes on one side. I flip the knife. 10 strokes on the other. I check the edge with the pad of my thumb, feeling for the burr, the microscopic curl of metal that tells me the edge is true. It catches my skin lightly. Good. I switch to a finer ceramic rod to hone the edge, removing the burr. Claxing, claxing. The steel sings a higher pitch now. I wipe the blade clean. I test it on a piece of cardboard from a bait box. The knife slides through the material with 0 sound, 0 effort. It doesn't tear, it separates. I repeat this for all 4 bait knives. By the time I am finished, they are surgical instruments. When the fishing starts again, we will not be hacking at the frozen herring. We will be gliding through it. This saves energy. This saves wrists. This is how we last the season. I put the knives back in the rack, all facing the same direction. The sun is lower now, casting long shadows across the deck. The water has turned a darker, bruised purple. The engine note changes slightly, a subtle rise in RPM. The captain is bringing us around. We are approaching the start of the next string. The lull is ending, but it wasn't wasted time. It was a recharge. It was maintenance. I lean against the rail for one last moment of stillness. I breathe in the cold air, letting it fill my lungs, chasing away the warmth of the galley and the workshop. I feel the readiness in my hands. My fingers are warm, nimble. My stomach is full. My gear is dry. I look at the other deckhands. They are emerging from the galley, zipping up coats, pulling on gloves. There is a quiet nod shared between us. The break was good. The coffee was strong. I walk back to the drying room to retrieve my gear. I slide my legs into the orange PVC bibs. I pull the suspenders up, snapping the buckles. Clicky, clicky. I shrug into the heavy jacket. I zip it up. I pull the hood over my head. I pick up my gloves. They are still warm from the heater. I slide my hands inside. They fit perfectly. I flex my fingers, feeling the grip, the texture. I step out onto the working deck. I take my position at the rail. The hydraulic pump engages with a whine that rises quickly to a scream before settling into its working hum. The crane swings out. The block spins, freshly greased, silent and smooth. The hook is in my hand. The water rushes by the hull, faster now. I watch the waves, reading the timing, waiting for the buoy. I am not tired. I am reset. I am a part of the machine again, and the machine is running perfectly. The sodium lights overhead hummed with a low, electric vibration that seemed to harmonize with the deep thrum of the diesel engine beneath my boots. We were down to the final string of the day. The horizon had long since disappeared into the ink of the northern night, leaving us in a solitary bubble of amber light and freezing mist. There is a specific rhythm to the end of a shift. In the morning, the energy is sharp and explosive. By midday, it is a sustained endurance. But now, in the final hour, the movement becomes fluid, almost automatic. My muscles knew exactly what to do without my mind needing to issue commands. I stood at the rail, waiting for the buoy. The sea was calmer now, a long, oily swell that lifted the boat gently and set it down with a heavy sigh. I watched the water peel away from the hull. There it was, the splash of color in the dark water. I reached out with the hook. The motion was smooth, a simple extension of my arm. The metal hook caught the line. I pulled. The line grew taut, shedding water as I fed it into the hydraulic block. This is the heartbeat of the boat. The block spun, wringing the sea out of the rope, hauling the heavy steel pot up from the floor of the Bering Sea, 600 feet down. I stepped back, watching the line coil. The coiler spit the rope onto the deck in perfect, flat loops. I waited for the bridle. The moment the steel cage broke the surface, water cascaded off its frame like a heavy rain. It swung inward, guided by the crane operator. I stepped forward, my gloves gripping the cold steel of the pot's rim. It landed on the launcher with a solid, heavy thud that vibrated through the soles of my boots. The latch clicked open. The door swung wide. This was the harvest, a tumble of spiny, rust-colored shapes spilled onto the sorting table. The steam rose off them, mixing with the cold air to create a swirling fog around our waists. I moved to the table. This is where competence is measured in seconds. My hands moved in a blur, but a controlled one. I picked up a crab. It was heavy, dense with meat. I flipped it. Male. I placed the measuring gauge across the carapace. The plastic gauge clicked against the shell. It was a keeper, well over the legal limit. I slid the crab toward the tank hatch. It vanished into the circulating seawater below. I picked up the next. Female. I tossed her gently toward the discard chute, sending her back to the dark water to breed again. Next. Juvenile. Back to the sea. Next. Keeper. Down the hatch. The rhythm was hypnotic. Grab, measure, slide. Grab, measure, toss. The sound of the shells clattering against the metal table was a dry percussion track to the work. There was no wasted motion. My crewmates were doing the same, a silent assembly line of focus. We did not speak. We did not need to. We only watched each other's hands, anticipating the flow of the product, keeping the table clear for the next pot. The crane swung again. The next pot landed. We worked through the final 10 pots of the string with a singular focus. The cold air nipped at my cheeks, but inside my gear, I was warm, insulated by layers of wool and the heat of my own exertion. I felt strong. There is a profound satisfaction in physical tiredness when it is earned through production. I looked at the tank hatch. It was nearly full. We had done well. The last pot came up empty of crab, just the bait jar and the scent of the ocean floor. I unhooked the door. We stacked it. The stacking is the final structural act of the day. The crane lifted the 700-pound steel cage. I guided it with one hand, watching the alignment. The metal feet of the pot had to slot perfectly into the pot beneath it. If it was off by an inch, the stack would be unstable. I signaled the crane operator with a slight nod. The pot lowered. Metal met metal. It seated perfectly. No rattle. No wobble. I grabbed the heavy ratchet strap. The nylon webbing was stiff with cold and salt. I threw the hook over the top rail of the stack, caught it on the other side, and began to crank. Clicky, clicky, clicky. The strap tightened. The stack compressed, becoming a solid, immovable unit against the rail of the boat. I gave the handle one final push, feeling the tension lock into place. It was secure. It would not move, no matter how much the ocean rolled tonight. The deck lights seemed to brighten as the crane engine idled down. The heavy hydraulic whine faded into silence, leaving only the splash of the waves and the low idle of the main engine. The fishing was done. Now began the restoration. I walked to the hose station. I uncoiled the thick, black rubber hose. It was heavy, filled with residual water. I walked back to the center of the deck and twisted the brass nozzle. The water pressure kicked back against my hand, a powerful, focused jet of salt water. This was the cleanse. I started at the bow and worked my way aft. I swept the stream of water across the steel deck plates. It pushed the remnants of the day before it. Bits of kelp, fragments of bait, the slime of the jellyfish, the mud from the ocean floor. The water chased the debris into the scuppers, washing it back into the sea. I watched the steel turn from brown and chaotic to gray and clean. I focused on the corners, the welds where dirt likes to hide. I sprayed down the sorting table, the water drumming loudly against the metal. I watched the grime peel away, revealing the shiny stainless steel beneath. There is a meditative quality to washing down a boat. It is the act of restoring order. It is a promise that we are ready for tomorrow. I sprayed the block, cleaning the salt from the sheaves. I sprayed the coiler. I sprayed the launcher. Finally, I sprayed my own gear. I directed the stream over my rubber boots, washing away the mud. I sprayed the front of my bibs, the sleeves of my jacket. The water ran off the oilskins in sheets, leaving them glistening and black. I shut off the nozzle. The silence that followed was heavy and sweet. The deck was clean. The pots were stacked and strapped. The tanks were full. I walked to the bait station. I took the lid of the bait bin and set it in place, snapping the latches down. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sealed. I checked the tools. The bait knife was wiped clean and placed in its sheath. The measuring gauges were hung on their hooks inside the shelter of the overhang. The gaffs were secured in the rack. Everything had a place. Everything was in its place. I walked toward the companionway, the heavy steel door that leads to the interior of the boat. I paused for a moment and looked out at the dark water. The boat was steaming now, picking up speed, heading toward the anchorage. The bow cut the water with a steady hiss. The cold air felt clean in my lungs. I took a deep breath, holding it, tasting the salt, and let it out slowly. I opened the hatch. The warmth hit me instantly. It was a physical weight, a wall of heat that smelled of diesel, coffee, and drying wool. I stepped into the mudroom. This is the transition zone, the space between the elements and the sanctuary. I sat on the wooden bench. My body felt heavy, sinking into the wood. I reached down and unbuckled my boots. The rubber was cold to the touch, but my feet inside were warm. I kicked the left boot off, then the right. I placed them on the boot dryer, sliding the tubes into the legs of the boots. I flipped the switch. A low hum of warm air began to circulate. By morning, they would be dry and toasty. I stood up and unclipped my suspenders. The heavy PVC bibs slid down my legs. I stepped out of them and hung them on my peg. They rustled stiffly. I took off my jacket, heavy with the weight of the day, and hung it beside the bibs. The orange rubber glowed under the mudroom light. I pulled off my gloves. My hands were white and wrinkled from the moisture, but they felt strong. I flexed my fingers, feeling the joints loosen. I washed my hands at the small sink, scrubbing with the gritty soap, until the smell of bait was gone, replaced by the scent of lemon and pumice. I opened the inner door and stepped into the galley. The noise of the engine was softer here, a muffled, comforting heartbeat. The galley was bright and warm. The other crew members were already there, sitting at the table. The tension of the deck was gone. Shoulders were dropped. Eyes were soft. I walked to the stove. The coffee pot was there, secured in the rack. I poured a cup. The liquid was black and hot. I wrapped my hands around the ceramic mug, letting the heat seep into my palms. I walked to the monitor station on the bulkhead. I checked the tank sensors. The water temperature in the hold was 34 degrees. Circulation pumps were running at 100%. The oxygen levels were perfect. The catch was safe. I sat down at the table. The vinyl seat groaned slightly under my weight. It felt incredibly soft after 14 hours of standing on steel. The cook had left a tray of sandwiches and a pot of soup. I took a bowl. It was thick stew, beef and barley. I ate slowly. The food was warm and rich. I could feel the energy returning to my body, not the sharp energy of work, but the slow, heavy energy of recovery. We did not talk much, just small nods, a comment about the weather forecast for tomorrow, a mention of the good count on the last string. The camaraderie was silent, built on the shared knowledge of the work we had just completed. I finished my meal and carried my bowl to the sink. I washed it, dried it, and put it away in the rack. I looked at the clock on the bulkhead. It was 11 at night. We would anchor in an hour, sleep for 6, and start again at dawn. 6 hours. It sounded like a luxury. I left the galley and walked down the narrow corridor to the bunk room. The carpet under my socks was soft. The boat rolled gently, a cradle rocked by the sea. I entered my bunk. It was a small space, barely bigger than a coffin, but it was the most comfortable place on earth. I drew the heavy curtain across the opening, shutting out the light from the hallway. I was in my own private world now. The darkness was absolute. I stripped off my wool socks, my thick pants, my thermal shirt. I folded them neatly and placed them in the net hammock hanging by my feet. I pulled on a clean, dry t-shirt. I slid into the sleeping bag. The flannel lining was cool at first, but it quickly trapped my body heat. I stretched out my legs. My back cracked, a satisfying release of tension along the spine. I wiggled my toes, enjoying the freedom from the heavy boots. I lay on my back, staring up into the dark. I could feel the boat moving. It was a complex motion, a slow rise, a gentle pause at the crest, and a smooth, sliding descent. Pitch and roll. It was a rhythm I had known for years. It was not chaotic, it was predictable. It was the breathing of the ocean. I listened to the sounds of the boat, the faint creak of the wood paneling, the distant, rhythmic chugging of the main engine, the swish of water against the hull. Just inches from my head on the other side of the steel plating. These were the sounds of safety, the sounds of a machine working perfectly. My mind began to drift. I replayed the day in fragments. The splash of the pots, the click of the measuring gauge, the clean sweep of the hose, the satisfying clunk of the latch sealing the bait bin. There were no loose ends. The deck was clean. The gear was stowed. The crab were in the tank. The course was set. My body felt heavy, sinking deeper into the mattress. The tension in my shoulders dissolved. The tightness in my grip faded. My eyelids felt weighted, pulling down with a gentle, irresistible force. I focused on the vibration of the engine. It was a white noise, a steady, low-frequency hum that massaged the mind. Thrum, thrum, thrum. I took a deep breath, smelling the faint scent of laundry detergent from the pillowcase. I let it out, and with the exhale, the last of the day's alertness left me. The boat rocked to the left. I rolled with it. The boat rocked to the right. I settled. My breathing slowed, matching the rhythm of the swell. In, out, rise, fall. The darkness became textured, soft and velvety. The boundary between the boat and my body seemed to blur. I was just a passenger on the sea, safe, warm, and done. The work was finished. The rest had begun. I let go, and I slept.